Kapla everybody! I'm Kaiser and today I'm going to introduce a great little format to play Star Trek CCG, the Warp Speed Cube Draft. That name might be a bit confusing, so let's break it down. First of all, Warp Speed is a variant of the game that has existed since the Decipher days. It is considerably faster than a regular game of first edition because the decks are smaller. The spaceline is much shorter and seeding therefore less complex. It has reduced winning conditions, and the pace of the game is accelerated since you get an additional card play and an extra card draw. A cube is a large pool of already existing cards selected for the purposes of playing a game with a limited card pool instead of using the sometimes overwhelming full card pool. From this pool, makeshift booster packs are randomly created on the fly to emulate the experience of opening boosters and playing in a regular sealed or draft tournament, just like with real retail products. But since it is increasingly difficult to find boosters from certain expansions of our game, the great thing about the cube is that it is reusable, since you can just put the pre-sleeved cards back in the box after playing. The card pool offers enough variation that you can go into many different directions to keep it interesting. And finally, drafting is the process where players pick cards from a booster pack and build a deck with the pick cards afterwards. All players sit around the table and open a pack each, pick a card, and pass the rest to the player on the left. They continue picking and passing cards until the packs are empty. They then open the next pack, continuing the drafting process with alternate passing directions for each new pack until every pack has been drafted. So the idea of this format is to have some kind of a board game version of Star Trek CCG that you can keep assembled ready to play, but with a lot more variety compared to a selection of pre-constructed decks that will always be the same. You will still play one-on-one games, but there is enough material in the cube for up to 8 players. In total, this cube contains over 600 cards that span the entirety of Star Trek CCG's history. The focus is on the early days of the game, specifically TNG. You will only find Federation, Romulan, Klingon and non-aligned characters, and the nostalgia factor is quite high because more than 1/3 of the original premiere set is included. Apart from the original bridge crew star power, you will also find minor characters such as the legendary Darren Wallace. The remaining cards are a mix across almost all expansions, from AU to the Farger Collection, DS9, Blaze of Glory, Holodeck Adventures, and also several virtual cards, since a lot of them were specifically designed to complement the cards from the early period. So how do you play this? To prepare for playing, hand each player their starter pack. This contains a fixed set of 15 cards that provide a basic infrastructure to make sure you will have a playable deck. It includes 1 copy of the 5 outposts, 1 copy of each of the 3 original two-way treaties, so you can play any combination of 2 out of the 3 affiliations included, 1 non-aligned ship, 5 non-aligned personnel, and a Q's tent in case you manage to draft some cards that can be downloaded. My personal version of the starter packs also includes 3 cheat sheet cards that summarize the entire drafting process and the most important rules of Warp Speed format, similar to what you find in modern board games these days. Next, it's time to draft the different parts of your deck. Step 1 is to shuffle all the missions, there are 64 in total, create a stack of 8 cards per player, then go ahead and draft the missions. You should try to have at least 1 planet and 1 space mission in order to be able to hit winning conditions. After the missions, it's time for the draw deck. Again, create stacks of 8 cards and draft them. Do this a total of 5 times for the draw deck, so each player will end up with 40 draw deck cards. When drafting them, keep an eye on your missions to double check which skills you need to solve them, and also look at the cheat sheet that gives you a hint as to which skills you need to pass the wall dilemmas in the pool. Try and get at least 1 additional engineer, officer, security, medical and science, and of course skills like diplomacy and leadership never hurt. Also, make sure you have enough staffing icons to fly the ships that you drafted, and that the personnel match the affiliation of the ships that you've got. If you find any useful events, interrupts, equipment or incidents and objectives, feel free to take them, but remember that the personnel and ships are the most important things in order to complete the game. And finally, it's time to draft some dilemmas. Of these, 2 stacks of 8 will be drafted per player. so everybody will end up with 16 total. Try and aim for a nice spread of either or, planet only and space only dilemmas, so you will be able to cover whatever mission selection your opponent puts on the table. The most devious wall dilemmas are missing in this card pool. Instead, those that you will find are mostly the ones that kill some personnel or that damage ships, meaning you will end up with some casualties, but sooner or later a balanced deck will be able to solve some missions. One twist to this format is the stack of the so-called piggyback cards. If you draft certain cards, for example those that have a special download icon that specifically calls out another card, you also get to take that card from the piggyback pile for some immediate synergy. For example, if you decide to draft Koloth, you will also get a Battlet as part of the deal. If you go for Ambassador Spock, he will bring Pardek along for the ride. With drafting over, it's now time to build the deck. At the end of the drafting process, we have our starter pack, the 8 missions, 40 draw deck cards, 16 dilemmas and maybe some piggybacks. For example here, we've got Julian Bashir, who never leaves home without his beloved teddy bear. Likewise, the Klingon Thopok refuses to go to war without his trusty battler by his side. A legal deck in this format consists of exactly 3 missions. You want at least 1 space and at least 1 planet, of course. And in order to report things, you must seed one of the outposts you find in your starter pack. You may then seed 1 treaty, and you may also seed 1 personnel or ship or equipment face up at your outpost. For example Lopez here, because he has the nifty download of a Federation pad. And of course you may also seed any cards that specifically allow you to do so, like good old AMS, if you manage to draft some mission specialists. Now that's 4 seed cards already, leaving us 8 slots that we can spend on dilemmas that we can use to make our opponent's life harder. As a special treat in this format, we also get to seed a Q's tent for free. It does not count against our 12 seed slots. And finally the draw deck. It needs to be at least 20 cards in this format, but there is no upper limit. Once everybody has built the deck, it's time for the first round. Find your opponent, randomly determine who goes first, and off you go. The first step is of course the seed phase. Now, seeding in Warp Speed is a bit different. You don't shuffle your missions, you pre-arrange them. The starting player places the mission where they want to seed their outpost on their left side of the table, then their opponent places one of their missions next to it, and then you alternate until all 6 missions are on the table. As has been said, the outposts must go at the different ends of the space line. Usually, you will have between 8 and 10 dilemmas to cover your opponent's 3 missions, so there are some choices that you have to make here. At the end of the seed phase, your half of the table might look something like this. You have a seeded outpost, you have a seeded treaty, you have a seeded personnel, and you have a Q's tent that doesn't count against your seed cards. It's in a different colored sleeve, in order to keep this clear. The seed phase is over, the first turn is about to start, so let's have a look at the special rules here. As has been said, Warp Speed plays faster than a regular game of 1E, because some of the rules have been modified to make for a more balanced and slightly less complex playing experience. For example, you get up to 2 normal card plays instead of just 1. Also, you ignore the AU, quadrant and holographic recreation icons when playing cards. As for affiliation attack restrictions, they have been lifted entirely. Federation can attack, and everybody can also attack their own affiliation. However, keep in mind that normal affiliation compatibility rules still do apply. That means you need the correct treaty to have, for example, Klingons and Romulans work together. Opponents' missions cannot be attempted in this format, so nobody has to worry about mission stealing. At the end of the turn, you first draw 1 card, and then you even up or discard down until you have exactly 7 in hand. And finally, once per game, if there are no cards left in your draw deck, you take all the personnel and ships and equipment from your discard pile, shuffle them, and form a new draw deck from them. That's called the regenerate rule. And that's about it really. You report personnel, you fly around, you attempt missions, you watch your red shirts and main characters alike die horribly to the dangers of space. but eventually one of you will complete both a space and a planet mission to win the game. Clear the table, get ready for the next round. You can find links to all the resources mentioned in this video in the description below. Maybe you find the time to assemble this cube for your playgroup or join a tournament near you where this format is offered. For example, we will definitely run this at Kaiserfest in August, and it's also on the schedule as a side event at the World Championship in England in September. Finally, credit where credit is due. This Warp Speed Cube Draft format was devised by Jason Tang. You can find his original post on the Trek CCG forums. This Bavarian Flavour and the 8-player card pool was devised by Gerald Sieber of the excellent Snack Track channel here on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video at all or have any questions or feedback, please leave a comment or a like or subscribe to this channel. I'm Kaiser, thanks for watching, and remember to expand your power in the universe.